Hello and welcome to the new segment on this channel titled Franchise Mondays. This segment, very much like Random Review Fridays, will be every other Monday. So what is Franchise Mondays? Franchise Mondays is going to be me in front of the camera, as I am right now, talking about different movie franchises. So what constitutes as a franchise? To me, a franchise is typically more than 3 films. 3 films, that's a trilogy. More than 3, that's a franchise. Rare exceptions are movies like Star Wars that, with only 1 film, it was already a big franchise. But that's due to the novelties of that particular film. But this segment is going to be every other Monday, so this is the first episode, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Wishmaster franchise. This is a franchise that not many people talk about. It's one of those horror films that's been long forgotten, and I think it started off with a good premise, and the first one I think is a genuinely good horror film. So the first film stars Andrew Divoff playing an evil genie, and this genie is called a jinn. The jinn, curiously enough, is a manipulator. He interprets wishes as he pleases. So in the first film, which was released in 1997, and I believe it was directed by Robert Kurtzman, the film was trying to bring a new character like Freddy or Jason, and sadly it did not live up to those characters in terms of being memorable. But the first movie, the good thing about it is that it introduces a lot of those known characters. You have the intro has the voice of the actor from Phantasm. You have Tony Todd from Candyman appearing in this film. You have Kane Hodder, who played Jason, also appears in this film. And you can tell they were really trying to push this film to be a big franchise. You even have Robert Englund playing a curator of a museum in this film. So, as I was saying, he's playing an evil genie, and this evil genie comes from a sapphire, like a ruby of some kind, and he was placed there by this sorcerer, and it was placed in an actual statue, which I don't know if it actually existed, but it's supposed to be a Middle Eastern folklore of a character named Ahura Mazda. So this statue ends up breaking, inside is the gem, and inside the gem is the jinn. So someone rubs kind of like a genie, rubs the gem, and out comes the jinn. So unlike the traditional genies that we know of, like from Aladdin, this one is very creepy looking. With each wish, he becomes stronger and more menacing. And the curious thing about the first film, which eventually the sequels didn't get right, is that he, technically speaking, is not really killing anyone. It's kind of like Jigsaw. Like, he is interpreting the wishes as he wants to interpret them, and the people make their mistakes of wishing for the wrong things. So his purpose, so to speak, is three wishes will literally have him control all of Earth. Sounds really silly, but what works for this movie is the great practical effects, the great visuals, and there is some CGI, but they utilize it in a way where it's not overpowering. This is in 1997. At the time, CGI was not as common, but it was starting to get up there. You already had movies like T2, Jurassic Park, which were pushing up CGI, but they actually use a lot of good practical effects, particularly in the beginning of this film, and towards the end where you have this really gruesome sequence, which I don't want to mention because it will ruin the movie. So if you like genuinely, not necessarily scary, but really gory, fun film, you'll enjoy the first movie. The second one was released direct-to-video. It was called Wishmaster 2, with a subtitle called Evil Never Dies. And it was released in 1999. And that particular sequel, while not as good as the first film, it had the return of Andrew Divoff playing also the Jinn. And curious enough, if you buy the DVD, which is it's a double feature DVD, if you look at the behind the scenes, they say they tried to lie their way through their noses that the reason why the Jinn looks particularly a little bit different, a little bit slimmer, is because they wanted to make him look more menacing. But in reality, it's because they didn't have a bigger budget. The first film didn't do as well as they thought it would, so the second film went straight to video. In the second film, the Jinn once again is woken, and he wreaks havoc, and he's still interpreting wishes as he likes. But in this sequel, it kind of retcons what the first film did. We learned that he not only needs 3 wishes, but he needs about 1,000 souls. And if he gets all 3 wishes, it will also liberate all his other buddies, all his other jinns from the other realm, the other universe. So this one also has some good practical effects, but you can tell it's very evident that the budget was a lot lower this time. And there's some sequences that, I don't know if it's the bad acting or just not good directing, that it came out pretty corny. And some sequences are genuinely cool to look at, and some are unintentional humor. So Wishmaster 2, Evil Never Dies, I do recommend. While inferior to the first film, it still maintains the same tradition of the first movie. Sadly, when the third film came out, which I believe I saw on the Sci-Fi Channel, the Sci-Fi Channel used to have something called Cinema Event, where they would show all these horror films, mostly direct-to-video horror films. And they showed Wishmaster 3, Beyond the Gates of Hell. That one is not very good at all. It was also direct-to-video, like Wishmaster 2. And instead of having Andrew Divoff as the Jinn, they had Jason Connery playing the human form of the genie, and another actor, who I don't remember his name, playing the Jinn. Now, some people argue that he's playing the same Jinn as the first 2 films. I disagree, because he's coming from a different gemstone. He's not coming from the Ahura Mazda. He's coming from an actual weird cube, and inside this cube kind of thing is the gem. And he acts different, he looks different, so you can say it's just another Jinn. So that's the only way you can still have the first 2 within continuity of the third film. The bad things about the third film are the acting. The acting is terrible. An exception of Jason Connery. Jason Connery is the son of Sean Connery, who played James Bond. Jason Connery, while he does have charisma, he's just not the right actor for a horror film. He seems a little bit more suave. Like, he could have played James Bond at one point. I don't know why they never had him playing James Bond. But in this Wishmaster film, he just seems... it doesn't work for me. It really doesn't. But the actor who plays the Jinn, he's a little more... some of his lines are just really terrible puns. Kind of gives me flashbacks to Batman and Robin, where Mr. Freeze gave some of the worst puns. And this guy does the same thing. So the third film tells a story of... Same story, pretty much. They find the gem, the fucking genie comes out, and everyone's saying wishes, and they're getting killed in the process. This time around, I think they can find a way to kill him, or some kind with a special sword. It's really stupid. The only good things about the movie, like the first 2, is that there's no CGI. It's all practical effects, which I really like. This movie came out in 2003. By then, most movies were using, for the most part, because it's cheaper, CGI. There's some practical effects that you can tell are not very... They look cheap, but at least they tried. So I give them that credit. And after that one came Wishmaster 4, Prophecy Fulfilled, which is also direct-to-video, and it is horrendous. Like, it's almost unwatchable. There are some parts that are funny, unintentionally funny, but the movie itself, it's stupid. It's taking place after the third film. Once again, he's trying to get his buddies, his other, Jinn demons, to come over to this world. But this time around, the Jinn falls in love with one of the people who woke him. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's really retarded. And this time it's not Jason Connery. It's some other guy who kind of looks like a discount Christian Bale. I don't know why they chose this guy. There's a sequence that I thought was pretty cool. It's pretty nasty. But he is on a line with this lawyer, and I don't know if he's granting wishes or something, but he's literally like, oh, did the cat cut your tongue? And literally the guy bites his tongue off, and you see him spit his own tongue. It's really nasty, but it's practical effects, and there's no CGI, so that's the only thing I could commend to the fourth film. But other than that, it's not very good. So this is a franchise that sadly kind of like shot its load way too high with the first film. The second film, while inferior, is still watchable, but the other ones just really, really went downhill. And I don't think it's just because it went direct to video. I think it's because not enough good writing, not enough good acting. Because there are some direct to video movies out there that are really good. And that came for the Sci-Fi Channel, one being Dog Soldiers. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. So these are 4 films. I recommend the first 2. The other 2 you can watch at your own risk. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Until next time, bye.